We've talked about this beforehand, the constant pressure that is needed. We saw the action that took place today. Congress did not move. The Senate Republicans blocked them again. But the reality is, if you had some guts shown by Kristen Sinema of Arizona and Joe Manchin of West Virginia, they could actually end the filibuster and get these bills moving.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Roland. I mean, you're exactly right. We need those senators, and not just those senators, because it's those two, and they might be the worst and the most stubborn of the crew. But there's some other ones that have been a little problematic and on the fence in regards to the filibuster. You know, there's people like Senator Coons from Delaware and Carper and a couple of others. And so, you know, what we've been saying is that recess can wait, right? That the Senate should not have recessed until they dealt with voting rights. They suspended their recess, including over the weekend, so that they could deal with this infrastructure bill. If they could do that for infrastructure, then surely they can deal with one of the most fundamental rights that this country has, which is the right to vote, and passing this voting rights legislation. They failed to answer that call. Be it as it may, then we're adjusting the call from recess can wait to recess needs to be cut short. They can come back early from this recess. The House on their side is coming back August 23rd to deal with not just infrastructure and the budget reconciliation, but to also deal with voting rights, in particular H.R. 4, the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act, because they've already passed the For the People. And so they're coming back towards the end of August. The Senate can cut their recess short and come back. And until they do, the other call that we're putting out, and I'll talk about this tomorrow, is that if they're going to be on recess, then we need to be hounding them, particularly, again, the most problematic ones in those states. We need to be at any event that they're doing in their districts, in their states, then folks need to be there demanding voting rights and demanding that they cut recess short and come back and deal with those voting rights. It ought to get to a point where they want to end their recess because they're so doggone tired of seeing folks raising these issues with them while they're in their states on their recess. And so that's what we're going to be doing. We'll be talking about that tomorrow. But more importantly, tomorrow is at the White House, because we're making the call and delivering these petitions to the White House saying we need President Biden to pick a side. We need him to lean in. We need him to call for them to come back from the recess and to deal with voting rights. He has got to be unequivocal at demanding and using everything he has at his disposal to get this voting rights legislation passed.
And so what we've heard for a very long time is that the priority of the White House was the infrastructure bill. Okay, It's now passed the Senate. It goes over to the House. No more excuses from the White House. No more excuses from President Biden.
That's right. No more excuses, right? You've done your job. You held your 300 or so. We've heard that he held 300 meetings in regards to passing the infrastructure bill. There's been a fraction of that, maybe less than 1% in regards to voting rights. So we need him to keep up the same energy that he just showed for the past couple of months for infrastructure. He's got to do the same thing in regards to voting rights. But let me add this, because infrastructure is not quite yet done, right? The House still needs to act on it. And so part of what we're also going to be saying, even though we appreciate our friends over in the House, they were the first to pass H.R. 1. They've been the ones, 4 members, as you know, 4 members of the Congressional Black Caucus arrested over the past month, demonstrating for the For the People Act. So we know that they've done a lot, but we might need them to do a little bit more, because we have got to start connecting this issue of infrastructure to voting rights. The same way Congress, including Nancy Pelosi, is saying that they're not going to pass that infrastructure bill until the Senate takes action on reconciliation, the same way that she and the House are connecting those issues, we need them to connect it to voting rights. In other words, President Biden, until we get some action, and Chuck Schumer, until we get some action on the For the People Act, this cherished infrastructure bill that y'all just passed, it may not get acted on in the House. That's a call that we need to start putting out to those who are on our side and friendly on the House side.
And that's the type of leverage that is needed.
Yeah, I mean this is a lesson in power. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a moral lesson. It's an issue about voting rights and civil rights and all that. But if we're not clear, this is about power. Mitch McConnell is unapologetic and unashamed about the ways that he uses his power for the wrong. He uses his power against those who are marginalized, against Black and brown voters and young voters and veterans and disabled folks. They are not ashamed about the way that they use their power for the good. We've got to be not ashamed about the way that we use our power and the way that we ask our friends, again, those that are supposedly on our side. We need them to use the power that we have given them. This is about power, and we're going to be making the demand that we connect these issues. So again, you've demonstrated, President Biden, Chuck Schumer, you've demonstrated that you care passionately about infrastructure, probably more passionately than you care about voting rights. Well, guess what? Right now, we're more passionate about our voting rights than we are about that infrastructure. And if we need to connect those two and use that leverage and use that power in order to get our priorities done, and not just, it's the House's priority. They named it H.R. 1. Because it was their first priority. So if it's their first priority, they've got to send a clear message to the Senate that they're not going to move on the House side until the Senate moves on their side in regards to voting rights.
The thing that I find to be real interesting when we talk about this issue, you have Senator Joe Manchin who is pushing hard for this national voter ID. And I'm just trying to understand who the hell is asking for that?
Well, we know who's asking for it. It's the Republicans that are driving that narrative. It's the big lie that's driving that narrative. And Joe Manchin, out of his odd desire to be so-called bipartisan, with folks that have already demonstrated that they don't mind overturning elections, right? He's going out of his way to give credence to the big lie, right? And so that's really what he's doing here. He's catering to those Republicans that he's hungry to have their acceptance and approval in the spirit of bipartisanship, which again ignores the fact that the bill and the things that are in the John Lewis Voting Rights Act as well as in the For the People Act already have overwhelming bipartisan support. If you define bipartisanship on the country instead of defining it on the people that are in the Senate and in the House, 100 and something of whom voted to overturn the election. You can't get bipartisanship with people that have that track record. So that's what he's talking about. And that's who he's catering to when he throws out some of these proposals in regards to voter ID, as well as when he ignores some aspects that are in the For the People Act, like the issue of reenfranchisement and restoration of the vote to people who have had previous felony convictions. His compromise proposal ignored that completely. That's unacceptable. But again, that's what happens when you have a senator who's going out of his way to appeal to those who have already proven that they have no interest in expanding access to the vote. And
this is literally what he said on the Senate floor, and I'm still trying to find out where these 10 folk he keep talking about.
It's crystal clear that I do not support the For the People's Act. Over the past few months, I've worked to eliminate the far-reaching aspects of that bill and amend the legislation to make sure our elections are fair, accessible, and secure. In June, I voted to begin debate in the Senate on my amended voting rights legislation, not For the People's Act. Tonight, I'm again voting to move that process forward because I believe that we need to come together to restore people's faith in the integrity of our elections. But I do make it very clear that I will not support the For the People's Act. For example, I firmly believe that we need common sense voter ID requirements, just like we have in West Virginia, that strengthen the security of our elections without making it harder for Americans to vote. I also firmly believe that we shouldn't politicize the Federal Elections Commission, prohibit any guardrails on vote by mail, or prevent local election officials from doing basic maintenance of voter rolls. The compromise bill we voted on in June included all of these important provisions, and I urge my colleagues, Democrats and Republicans, to allow us to debate this critical issue and come up with a bipartisan solution that protects every American's right to vote.
All right, so you see Republicans, actually, if y'all go back to it, if you look at the graphic there, that was the end, Republicans for voting rights. They're the ones who are championing what Joe Manchin just said there. The reason I'm laughing, I'm sorry, he keeps talking bipartisan, 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 just for the sake of shits and giggles. please show me the 10. See, that's the whole deal. All these media people, all these mainstream media people who keep talking to Joe Manchin because he won't come over here, they refuse to ask him, Joe, show me your 10. He can't, because they don't exist.
Right. And you hit it on the head. I scream at the TV every time I see one of these interviews that some of these reporters do with them, and he'll say, I think we got them. The votes are out there. The 10 are out there, and I'm waiting for them to ask the next follow-up question, which is exactly what you're asking. Who are the 10? In fact, don't even tell me who are the 10 that are guaranteed to do it. Who are the 10 that are even in discussions about this? He can't name 10. He can't name 5. He can barely name 2, but he gets away with it. And you're exactly right. I'm glad you showed that graphic, because showing that it was the Republicans for Voting Rights or whatever it was called, because what he is doing, he is giving Republican talking points. He is using the big lie as a talking point. Every time he talks about, we need photo ID in order to have the integrity or security of our elections, like West Virginia, there's other states that don't have any form of photo ID, and their elections are just as secure, if not more so, and have greater participation than West Virginia. So he's using the big lie. He's using Republican talking points to rationalize things like photo ID, and even you heard him talking about the maintenance of the voter rolls, which we know has been used to purge voter rolls and to disproportionately impact Black, brown, young voters, college students, et cetera, et cetera. And so he is using Republican talking points. And again, we are going to have to, because at the end of the day, we know, when he shows you who he is, then believe him, right? But we know what we've got to do. We've got to show up. We've got to support people in West Virginia, because they exist, that are trying to hold him accountable. We've got to support that process. We've got to support direct action. We've got to support and encourage civil disobedience, and not just in West Virginia, and not just in Arizona, but in Delaware, in New York, where Chuck Schumer is, as well as in at least 3 or 4 other states where there are Democratic senators that have been on the fence about the filibuster. We have got to be ungovernable, and we have got to let them see us everywhere they go, in the spirit of love and accountability, right? But we have got to have civil disobedience in order to let them know that we are serious when we're talking about voting rights. Because at the end of the day, our voting rights are connected to all these other issues that we're dealing with, including COVID, which is ravaging parts of this country.
Cliff Albright, co-founder of Black Voters Matter. We surely appreciate it, man. Thank you so very much.
Thanks, Roland.
Folks, back to that Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
Seek.com, we are partnering with them, of course. We appreciate their support right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Check out a couple of their products that you can take advantage of.
And you're watching us on Seek.
What's going on? This Quavo Huncho. Right now, you in the Huncho's world.
Please let the music play.
Enjoy the Seek.com video by using one of their virtual reality headsets. All you do is just pop your phone right here into the VR headset and enjoy the content. You can also take advantage of their 360-degree headphones. These headphones here come in a couple of colors, black and gold, but then also all gold. And so you can check these out. If you want to use our promo code to get a discount, it's RMVIP21, RMVIP21. Then, of course, a portion of the proceeds comes back to Roland Martin Unfiltered, which allows for us to fund the show. And so this is a Black-owned company, and we certainly believe in supporting Black-owned companies. Mary Spiel is the founder. And so, again, go to Seek.com, use the promo code RMVIP21.